Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
With practice and qualifying done from deep in the heart of Texas, it's time to get you set for the Wurth 400. For Sunday's NASCAR action, we'll look at the DraftKings pricing, go through our favorite options, see what we can find for you, build some lineups, talk some notes from practice, some qualifying thoughts. We'll look at the updated outright board, which has kind of shockingly been moved a lot. Like I assumed we'd see some movement. But we got some real flippening happening. So we'll get into that. We'll look at the bets we have locked in, the bets that we may end up adding while you're here. Make sure you click that like button. Make sure you click subscribe if you haven't done that yet. But half of you that watch each and every single week are not subscribed. Doesn't cost you a thing. Helps us out tremendously. Please consider doing that. Brian Twining, live from Las Vegas. How the hell are you?
I'm doing rather well, my friend, after we watched Carson Hocevar, I guess to some surprise, but to a lot of us in the space, not so much surprise based on his qualifying speed here this weekend. Grab the poll. We both had 25-1. Thank goodness our favorite offshore maybe accidentally allowed me to bet that. But yeah, so it's been a good start to the weekend. We're coming off another shit show of a race at Texas with the Xfinity Series after the trucks put on an absolute clown show on Friday night. So who the hell knows what's going to happen on Sunday?
Don't get over your skis is what I'm hearing. I mean, obviously Xfinity is Xfinity and trucks as well, even worse. But
yeah,
it should be interesting. We talked about how much success we've had here and how it's probably going to come to a crashing halt this week. But so far, so good. As you mentioned, having the host of our poll bet was awesome. And that was only because we also had McDowell, who got passed by Hocevar. And then we had
right.
Cindric, who I thought might actually make a charge too. And then we just really had to hold onto our butts to make sure Larson and Byron didn't catch him. And it was close.
Yeah, I thought for sure Byron was going to get him.
There was points where I was like, oh, he's going to, and he didn't. So that was nice. It's really nice just locking in a profit after the Saturday and not even having to worry about Sunday. Sunday's all upside. And after Talladega, I mean, it was all downside. But hopefully this week we get a little more safety, a little more caution, a little more.
I expect a lot of cautions, but I don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at that over under. It's probably going to be an interesting play. But let's run through the DraftKings pricing. We'll talk some of our thoughts. Obviously, your read on practice, who stood out, who was fast, all of that good stuff. So I will pull this up. We can look at that. We have Kyle Larson. Let me adjust it, actually. Bear with me. Tech lording over here. Actually, I think I want this one. So, yep, there we go. Perfect. Brian, Kyle Larson, he of the Xfinity race win, will be starting second row at 11K. We also have Byron, who's starting on the front row at 10.8. Dennis Hamlin, 10.5. Tyler Reddick, 10.2. Ryan Blaney way back in 24th at an even 10K. You can really pick your poison this week. You can go to the front, you can go to the back, you can try and squeeze in two of these guys. When we came into the week on, what did we talk, Tuesday? These were the names to know. These were the shortest prices. If you look at the outright odds board, they're all going to be peppered in at the top. Obviously, you can do what you like. Who's jumping out to you? What are your thoughts? Is this going to be a Larson dog walks the field? It's all over, but we just got to sit back and enjoy it. Or Byron, Hamlin, and then Reddick and Blaney, who are both starting mid to late in the field, also stand out. So, I guess where does your immediate attention go?
Well, I think first of all, it's important to note that here at Texas, unlike last week at Talladega, dominator points are really going to matter. And I have it written down in my notes that I took during practice, which is no surprise to anybody. in this Gen 7 era, but clean air is king here in Texas. And so I think you really got to try to pinpoint who you think is going to jump to the front early, find guys who have good pit crews, not looking at you, Ryan Blaney, to be able to maintain that track position too throughout the race. Because when you get out front here, it seems that guys are able to run 1 to 2 tenths faster than everybody else, regardless of how good their car is. So to me, obviously, you got to start with Kyle Larson, starting fourth. Yeah, he's the most expensive guy, but you do get actually an extra couple of placement points than what we're kind of expecting with him. Kind of expected to qualify on the pole, being the shortest odds there, so you get that benefit, and then also the expectation that he's going to win the race as we transition a little bit later and look at race odds. He's still the favorite, pretty significantly too.
Yeah, and I think both to the clean air being king and just kind of in general, this is a really good crossover to Las Vegas.
Yep.
Similar tire compound, so you want to kind of keep that in mind as you build lineups. Think about, okay, who was good in here in Vegas in the spring? Obviously, that was kind of a weird race, ended strangely. Josh Berry finding a way to get there, but you can see who was good in that race, and obviously our friends over at Win the Race have their true performance rankings. You can go over and check those out and see who's been good kind of at the mile and a half. So obviously iFantasy Race posts all kinds of good content on Twitter as well. It's completely free in terms of speed at Vegas and mile and a halves and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, Byron's really interesting to me, especially for maybe, when I'm thinking about somebody who I think can stay up front, who can lead a lot of laps and find a way to not get into some nonsense. Where Kyle Larson, I understand the betting a lot more. Like, his upside is good. And obviously on DraftKings, especially if you're in tournaments, Larson could dog walk the field, could be, lead a ton of laps, be absolutely the guy you need and find a way in a victory lane. But Byron's so much safer. And if I can save couple $100 starting on the front row, if you told me he led most of stage 1, was really, really good through stage 2, and then was kind of, a top 5 car at the end of the race, like, that seems to make a lot of sense. And at 10-8, I think could be in play. And then it really comes down to picking between Reddick and Blaney. And once again, Blaney is really compelling and his upside obviously is tremendous, but I bet Tyler Reddick coming into the week at 8. He's like 7-ish most places still, starting 17th. If you tell me we start Byron Reddick, or even Larson Reddick, but I think Byron Reddick's my favorite start, I'd be very, very excited.
Yeah, I don't fault you there. The one thing I will say, as we've kind of alluded to over the past couple of weeks, like, the way that I look at practice is a little bit different. I'm looking at lap by lap data, and William Byron, I understand that a lot of the HMS weeks, they come into the race with different setups to kind of test out what they have, and obviously he qualified really well, but he wasn't all that impressive the longer we've got into practice. And obviously they're going to be able to make adjustments. They're one of the best teams in the sport in doing that, but I just have a little more faith in Kyle Larson at a 1.5 in order for ceiling play. I know William Byron has also won at this track type, but a lot of those have come at the detriment of Kyle Larson because, say, something happened to the 5 or Ryan Blaney wrecked or something else happened to where Byron kind of lucks into a win. And
yeah, we were in Vegas when that happened. Almirola spun it out and got a restart, and Byron won, but Byron also got trash bagged. But yeah, it seems like a lot of the time when Byron beats Larson, it's because of something kind of funky.
Yeah, and then also too, when you just look at Texas, we talked about this real quick leading in the show, but we're expected to have close to double digits or eclipse double digit cautions, with the majority of them coming because of cause, with guys wrecking, guys spinning by themselves, wrecks. You don't know if that happens during a green flag pit stop. So even in DFS, you have to be a little more careful than at regular intermediate tracks, because that type of stuff can ruin somebody's race, trapping them a lap down or something of that nature, as opposed to when we go to Vegas or we go to Kansas, you don't really see that. The wrecks are natural wrecks of guys racing, not people spinning by themselves.
Yeah, and I think I'll definitely keep that in mind. Like, I might expand my player pool a little bit. Usually I like to keep it a little more condensed just because I have tend to fall in a lot of the same guys I like, and then kind of mix and match my last couple spots. I will say for Byron, he's been incredibly consistent from a finishing perspective here at Texas. Third, first, seventh, 11th, second, seventh. So basically seventh or better in 5 of his last 6 finishes. We've talked about him, how important, kind of track position is for him in general. Like if he gets stuck in that middle pack, he sometimes will have a hard time moving forward and kind of really contending again. But if he starts up front and he has clean air most of the day, he's going to be incredibly hard to pass and incredibly hard to beat. And so like I said, I'll have some Larson for sure, but I think Byron at a little bit of a discount, and probably hopefully a little bit of an ownership discount, but it seems like there's going to be, Byron will still be very popular, don't get me wrong, but from a complete, kind of ownership projection standpoint, it looks like you might be able to get a little bit of a discount, which is, when you're shave, less than 10% here, shave 5 to 10% there, and all of a sudden your tournament lineups just look a little unique, and that's all you need to go ahead and cash those bad boys. Let's talk 9K. Christopher Bell, 16th. Joey Logano, 27th. Chase Briscoe, 22nd. Average ass Chase Elliott, 29th. So with 4 names in the 9K range. Just like last week, Chase is going to be incredibly popular, and I don't think it's wrong. But Briscoe, 22nd. Logano, 27th. And Bell, 16th. 4 guys starting mid to late. Somewhat expensive. Could easily be really good here. Who is the name or couple of names that are jumping out from this group of 4 drivers?
Well, Chase Elliott has a problem this week because his car is extremely slow out the gate. So if we're looking at short run speed and being able to even stay on the lead lap early on in this race, if he gets mired back in traffic, he might be in trouble. But if this goes green for long extended times and he is able to kind of move forward quickly and maybe stay out long again, like we did last year, where he was gifted track position early, obviously that could pay off for him. I just don't see it happening. So for me in this range, this is going to be gross coming out of my mouth, but Joey Logano, Penske looked great. Fords in general looked really good in practice on the long run. Logano was maybe a little bit slower than his teammates, Austin Cindric and Ryan Blaney, but we know that they're probably the best in the garage at taking risks and that working out for them. So if we're going to take guys from the back, hoping that they stay out long or get a lucky caution, I'm going to go with a guy like Joey as opposed to any of these other 3 guys. I know Christopher Bell is all the talk in the sport. I was talking him up as possibly the best driver in the world, which, the metrics say otherwise as we enter Texas, and he kind of showed it in practice and qualifying, a little bit slower than what a lot anticipate. So yeah, it's Joey Logano for me in this range.
It's kind of funny that like the narrative changes, like it's Larson and then it's Christopher Bell, and then despite the poor finishes, Ryan Blaney looked at the best car and the best driver, and it all comes back to the 5. It's always the 5. So Larson's hard to beat. It's really fun, I think, to do Logano, Blaney, Logano. We'll talk Cindric here in a little bit. I think it's a good week to, if you're building tournament lineups, to do like Larson, Logano, Byron Reddick, Hamlin, Blaney, like kind of mix up your manufacturers, because I think it's easy, and you can obviously kind of mix and match at different points, but it's so easy to go, oh, I like Blaney and I like what Penske brought, and okay, I'll put Logano in because he makes a lot of sense. He's starting farther back. I think he'll be good too. And then you're just kind of like hitching your wagon to one. But I feel like that's going to be a common kind of through line for a lot of lineups. And so if you're like, well, I want to be unique, maybe Larson's super popular and Byron's super popular and Blaney's super popular and Hamlin's super popular. But if you go Toyota, Ford, mix in a couple Chevys, maybe that's the difference in terms of the unique factor. You don't even have to get crazy with your ownership leverage. You just kind of find a way to think outside the box a little bit, because it is really easy to go, oh yeah, well, I mean Larson, and then let me grab, Chase Elliott, that makes sense, and let me see, there's somebody else makes sense. Like it's just like your brain naturally gravitates towards teammates and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And also too, important to note that both Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano are on record already after practice of saying like passing is near impossible. And so making up track position in other ways is going to be extremely important, whether that's taking 2 tires, taking no tires, doing whatever is necessary to get track position is going to be on full display on Sunday.
And if I told you that one car took 2 tires, restarted 4th or 5th, and made it stick, who would you think I was talking about?
Yeah, it's the 22. Like
Yeah.
I just don't think there's anybody in the sport that's as good as him at doing
No.
that type of stuff, which is why I not something I'm normally saying, but I like Logano a lot this week in
Yeah.
DFS.
Yeah, I think he makes a ton of sense. Love him or hate him, he's going to be good, and he's going to get
Yep.
track position, and he's going to dominate. And maybe you get a little salary cap, maybe you get a little ownership leverage because he's $500 more than Chase. He's
Yep.
2 spots ahead of Chase, and it's so easy for people to go, oh, why would I pick Logano when I can just click Elliott? Same idea. He's going to be good. Starting 2 spots back, $500 savings makes me bring up that whoever Jabroni is, my last click. You might be able to get yourself a little bit of an ownership discount depending on contest. Let's talk 8Ks. Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Ross Chastain, Tyrone Gibbs. A couple guys starting inside the top, or I guess 3 guys starting basically in the top 10, and then 2 guys kind of outside the top 20. Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, yes, no, either, neither, or both.
Man. Not Ross Chastain. His car looked like a freaking dump truck that was full of cement during practice. And then he just continued his absolutely atrocious qualifying efforts so far in 2025 with another stinker. Kyle Busch, for that matter, he actually looked decent in practice. Yes, he was in the first group, which was faster, but he was like one of the top 5 or 6 cars during that group that did have Joey Logano, both RFK or all 3 RFK guys. Ryan Blaney was in there. So obviously, I think he's got some stuff on the long run. But again, it's all about short run speed and whether or not he can avoid getting lapped and be able to even be there at the end. But I think a guy that's in Bush's situation right now where they're not performing all that well, he could be another one that gets off strategy and does something pretty aggressive. Which, yes, Chastain will do the same thing, but his car sucks. I know.
Ross is the one that I was interested in. He's been so
He
good
had
here the
no speed.
last 3 years. He's obviously got into some shenanigans, but he was second after stage 2 in 22. He was for 8th after stage 2 in 2023, and he was first in 2024. Obviously got second in the race in 2023. Hasn't quite got the results, but you're telling me he starts 31st and he finishes 13th.
The
And
difference in those races, though, I actually went back and I looked at those. He
okay.
was actually qualifying pretty well.
Okay.
In the first 3 times we came here, I think he qualified no worse than 13th, I think it was, or something like in the low teens.
Yeah.
Now he's starting 31st. So he's clearly missed the boat on the setup.
Weird. Trackhouse is just like a disaster of an organization right now. I don't know what's going on
Man,
there.
Pitbull got out at the right time,
I
apparently.
guess so, Dale. Bubba Wallace, Alex Bowman, Tyrone Gibbs.
I'm not touching Gibbs in DFS, but
From a betting perspective.
well, you know what? I take that back. Gibbs was pretty damn good in practice. I have for group 2, and this is saying something with who was in that group. The best 2 cars of group 2, one of them was Ty Gibbs. The other one has yet to be mentioned.
I'm probably not doing it a lot just because I think it's might be getting a little too cute, but I think there is a world where you use a bunch of these like expensive back marker middle pack guys. Like you could start Reddick, Blaney, Logano,
Yep.
and then use Tyrone Gibbs as your early dominator.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Gibbs was good.
It was really good.
But again, how many wins does Gibbs have in his Cup career?
He has none. He has 0. And I'm once again asking you to back him at 20-1. Chris Buescher, Josh Berry, Brad Keselowski, Carson Hocevar, Austin Cindric, and Ryan Preece. What a group. Hocevar starting on the pole, Cindric row 2, Josh Berry starting inside the top 10, and then Brad and Preece are just bringing up the rear. Interesting group in the 7Ks. Preece and I'm guessing Brad will be very popular given his kind of run of top 10s here. I don't know. I guess let's start with RFK in general. Like, do you have interest in any of the 3 cars?
So I think Keselowski was actually pretty good in practice in terms of his fall off numbers, but the problem is I've already said this about a couple of guys, and he's probably in the worst car of all of them. Like with him starting so far in the back, they have to make up so much track position, and if passing is as impossible as it sounds, and he doesn't necessarily have the equipment that's necessary to make the passing, we're looking at a guy that he is going to need the caution to fall the right way. He's going to need to be able to take 2 tires on an early yellow while everybody takes 4 and get it to stick, kind of like McDowell did earlier, Chastain did early last year. I mean, there is no world where his car is going to be able to drive him into a better finish. And so you can't really play for that type of stuff when he doesn't have the vehicle at all underneath him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were even talking about it, obviously, as Xfinity, but Parker Kligerman was talking about how Nick Sanchez was like, give me a fast car, we can kind of figure everything else out. And
Yep.
doesn't seem like RFK has been able to do that. He'll be popular. I tell you, I'm not loading up him and Chase and Blaney and
No.
like all the popular guys. Like if you want to mix in 1 or 2 of those guys, I think it's fine. In cash, whatever, it's one thing, but I think in tournaments it's a little sketchy. And as Brian mentioned, some of these guys might get trapped a lap down. They're going to need the caution to kind of gift them track position, and then maybe it ends up working out. But I think loading up on all of them and hoping it works out for all of them seems like a fool's errand. We talked about it with Gibbs, but Hocevar, Cindric, and even Barry, I guess, looked good. Obviously qualified strong. Do you have any interest in them in DK, or are they easy cross-offs and just worry about them from a betting perspective?
So like Gibbs, Hocevar, I have a hard time trusting to keep it up front, especially with his pit crew. Like we've seen him already a bunch of times this year. And then even in this race last year, I believe Hocevar had some issues on pit road where he was running inside the top 10. And I think, kind of coming into the week, it was expected. This was a track that benefits the guys with heavy foots the most. And guys, that fits Carson Hocevar right there. What does he do? He mashes the gas as good as anybody. But when you're in a race like this too, with as many cautions as there are, with as many pit stops as we're going to be having, you can't have mistakes. You have to be on your game. And I just don't trust that team. Whereas Austin Cindric, he was good in Vegas. He was pretty good at Homestead. Like, he's a proven winner in the Cup Series, although a couple of times kind of gifted to him, but he's on Penske. Like the car is better. Their pit crews have been ass as well this year, but I would think that they're a little bit better than what Spire has. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I trust the 2 more than I trust the 77 for sure.
Oh yeah. And I think both Gibbs and Hocevar are great targets for Saturday where they can just send it.
Exactly.
And less on Sunday. Although both have really stepped in. Even I want to give Hocevar his flowers because he was clearly a guy that was on the Ross Chastain path of just push the gas as fast as you can and crash in stage 1 every time.
Yep. Yeah.
He's evolved significantly, gotten a lot more patient, a lot more understanding of the difficulty of winning in the Cup Series and how important it is to put yourself in position in stage 3. So he's definitely getting better, improving as a driver. But he still has work to do. I think, if you're going to get real chalky elsewhere and you want to use Cindric or Hocevar or even Gibbs as a dominator early, I think there's a world where that makes sense. I'm not doing it in every lineup, but if you're doing like a 3 max and those are your 3, or if you want to do like a 150 set and you're going to mix in a few of those, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think if you're only doing a handful and you're not shooting for the moon and trying to hit the stars, there's probably little safer ways to build.
Yeah, and I do think again, a lot of these guys are going to be targets for betting as opposed to DFS or vice versa. There are guys that you want to play on DFS, but you want to stay away from them in the betting markets based on how the scoring is or what their strengths and weaknesses are, for sure.
Well, and especially some of these guys they get a little inflated based on their name recognition, even though track position, what we saw on Saturday, all that stuff. So if the number doesn't match, don't feel like you have to fire. Suarez, Gregson, Eric Jones, Allmendinger, Austin Dillon, Michael McDowell, Ricky Stenhouse, Zane Smith. Once again, DraftKings takes a bunch of guys. They're like, I don't know what to do with them. Fires them in the 6K and says, you guys figure it out.
Yeah.
Dinger top 10, Gregson 18th, Dillon, like Michael McDowell starting in the top 5. Is the 6K range just one that like scratch a big line through it and try not to pick anybody?
No, sir.
No.
We have the return of the sporty car of the week in practice.
Oh, baby. I didn't even know this was coming. I'm excited.
Yeah. Noah Gragson.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He was putting up some very impressive lap times in practice, and I did make a specific note, sporty, in it on my paper. This has become a thing for me. It's been a couple of weeks since we've had a driver get this moniker.
Well, they have to earn it, Brian. You can't just give it out every week. It's not like a participation trophy. You really have to show up on Saturday. And he's somebody, mostly last year, who would show up at 1.5 miles, and like in Vegas was obviously good, in Kansas, and this is this style is really conducive to his racing style. So if you're telling me he has a good car, he looked sporty on Saturday and starting 18th, especially with like a Penske build, if you want to get in on the Fords, I think there's a real good path to that making sense.
Yeah, and I think he's starting far enough back. I mean, he's like dead middle of the running order that you do kind of present yourself a little bit of leeway with him, maybe only gaining a few spots based on him only being $6,800, but then also know that you do have the possibility of a top 10 car with a driver who, like Carson Hocevar and like Ty Gibbs, like he's good at mashing the gas. So at fast tracks, Gragson is somebody I want to gravitate towards. And to me, that kind of makes me just lead right into a guy like Eric Jones, who, had he been starting further back, I think I'd be much more interested, because one thing I did note during the first session of practice was that Legacy, for the first time this year, I was actually monitoring their lap times in the session. Yeah, they actually showed decent long run pace, which I'm going to say this now. A lot of that we can kind of, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because there were some guys who had clean track and some guys who were running in traffic during practice. So some of the lap times are skewed, which means some of the lap averages are going to be thrown off a little bit. But from what I saw, from what I was monitoring, Legacy did not bring shit boxes this week. They actually have semi-competitive cars, not outside the top 30, but maybe in the low 20s, low, like back end of the teens.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe a couple of guys to consider, especially when we get in the 5K range, his teammate down there.
Yeah, I like that. I like that call quite a bit. And honestly, if you told me Gragson was starting 22nd, I feel like his ownership percentage would be significantly higher. Obviously, Eric Jones, if he was in the 20s, would be significantly higher. So interesting pivot plays, get off a little bit of ownership, still have the upside, still are really interesting. I like those calls significantly. Obviously Gragson more than Jones. Let's talk 5Ks and we'll round this out. We'll build some lineups. We have Gillen, Haley, Nemechek, Custer, Riley Herbst, Jesse Love, Ty Dillon, SVG, Cody Ware, Chad Fincham. Yeah, Chad Fincham.
Whatever the hell his name is.
Chad Fincham.
He's in
I'm
the
a drink.
66, so that's all we need to know.
I mean,
Yeah,
if we want to get in at the top, we have to dive in at the bottom. Where we what are we scraping off the barrel?
Yeah, it's gross, but I'm telling you, John Hunter Nemechek this week is somebody that has my attention from a long run speed perspective. And with him starting 28th and he's only $5,600. I mean, if he can avoid being lapped early, that presents some major upside at almost no salary that allows you to squeeze in all those super high price guys up near the top.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good call. We've seen him, obviously not last year with Legacy, but with his 3 FRM starts, 29th, 21st, 28th, 22nd, 24th, he's been able to move forward a little bit. So if you tell me that he's 28th and you get maybe a top 20 out of him at sub 6K, I think that could work, especially if it allows you to get in the other really good drivers that you want to target. So
Well, okay, just real quick. I know I just talked about how lap times you can't take too much from that, but just looking at their lap averages in practice, John Hunter Nemechek's 5, 10, 15, and 20 lap averages almost perfectly mirror those of William Byron. So I mean, it's not like they have the same car. And on Sunday, obviously William Byron is going to be much faster, but they were not as shitty as what we've seen to begin 2025.
yeah. Okay. Well, I think those are all some good names, some good discussion. Let's build some lineups and see what we actually get forced into in terms of squeezing us into uncomfortable positions. So I'm going to start with what I said was going to be my favorite start, and we'll see where we take it from there. So Byron starting second, Reddick starting 17th is my favorite start, I think. Let's see what we can do with the other 4 spots to see if I like that or if that's something that I'm like, I don't want to squeeze myself that much.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, let's put in Nemechek.
Okay. No Gregson.
Oh, all right. All right. Okay, so now we're sitting there. We got really one guy. Now we really need Byron to dominate early.
We do. I mean, we can get, we have some options in the 8Ks. We could do the Bubba thing. We have his teammate. We could do Ty Gibbs if we wanted a second guy who could dominate early. We could even do Carson Hocevar at 7,400, and that kind of opens up some of them. Like if we get down, that allows us to get up to a Logano or a Briscoe or a Chase if we want to do that.
No, this is gonna sound weird, but what's Daniel Suarez?
No.
Of the Trackhouse guys, he is by far better than Chastain here.
Okay. I don't even know that I said mi amigo when we went through the player by player, so that's interesting. But I don't hate it. I think he's interesting, and obviously it opens up pretty much anything else we want to do. Is Logano the click, or do we want? Yeah, I feel like Logano's well.
So somebody else who was pretty good in practice, who we didn't really talk about either, was Chris Buescher starting 12th. But the problem there is that with him starting further up the field than what has become like the norm for RFK, with all of them kind of qualifying like shit normally, you run the risk of him maybe not having the best car and then maybe finishing right there, finishing 10th.
Yeah. No, I think the discussion is Chase or Logano. And obviously, Logano is, interesting. We both seem to like him a lot, but we could also easily make him a part of our next lineup.
Yeah, let's just do Elliott then. So that way it's more Chevy heavy.
Chevy heavy, baby. We do have an extra 700. I'm not saying we have to spend it, but if there's a name that makes sense, like Gregson up to Priest, or I mean, we could do Cindric since we're but then we might want to do then we can't do Logano. Or we can try and upgrade.
So the one thing I will say about having Gregson is I think you're getting leverage on roster percentage because with him starting inside the top 20, I don't think a whole bunch of people are going to be like, oh yeah, I want to play Noah Gregson.
Do you have any interest going from John Hunter up to Haley, Gilliland, Smith, Stenhouse, or McDowell?
The only one historically I would look at is Haley, but with him starting 13 spots ahead of Nemechek,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd rather take the positions with JHN. And I don't have any interest in Ricky Stenhouse this week.
Okay.
His car is trash.
We're not required to spend it all. Could also do Larson instead of Byron, but I don't know if that's really doing a whole lot.
That's a different lineup, sir. All right. I already know how we're starting this one.
Give it to me. Kyle Larson.
Blaney, and Blaney. I think there's a world where on Sunday people are regretting not playing or betting the 12 car again because of how fast he's going to look.
Can we make this work?
Oh my gosh. All right. Now we really need to dumpster dive.
I think the answer is yes, but I want to see.
All right. So 62. All right. Well, that's got to be. Let's play Jess Love.
What?
Yeah.
On purpose?
I like him better than Shane Van Gisbergen or Cody Ware.
I don't think we have to get that gross. Let's see. Hold on. let me do a couple clicks here and just kind of give us ourselves an idea of what may or may not be required. I mean, that seems interesting.
All right, who can you play instead of Stenhouse? You can't really play anybody.
McDowell. I think I know it's not great, but I think he could be fine. You could also do Priest instead of Suarez.
I like that to get off of, so that way we're not doubling up on Mi Amigo.
Yeah. I think this is kind of fun. I know that you're going to need something out of these guys, but if you told me that at the end of the day, Larson, Blaney, and Reddick are the top 3 cars finishing 1, 2, 3. Larson dominated a lot early, and then Blaney and Reddick both had 30 plus laps led really fast. Obviously, have that placement differential. Like, I think this lineup slaps.
Well, I mean, as we go and we look at odds, that's 3 of the 4 shortest numbers.
Exactly. It's really fun figuring out that back part of it, but I think it's worthwhile.
All right. Now we need to do one where we have the back marker guys, like the elite back markers, with a Gibbs and a Hocevar or a Gibbs and a Cindric type thing.
That's probably too many names, but
get AAs out of here.
Okay, I was gonna say, do you want Logano or Elliott? So if we want to do Logano, do we want to do Cindric or do we want to do Gibbs?
Let's do Gibbs.
Okay.
which of course means he's going to break our heart. But
Yeah, I mean that's to be expected. We do Jesse Love, that gets us up to 7K.
And Priest or Gregson again.
Yeah, if we do
It's kind of that range we keep falling in.
Gregson, then we can get up to Custer or Herbst. I mean, we could do Herbst.
I don't hate Riley Herbst because the 2311 cars look decent.
And we have a 2311 car in here.
That said, Riley's had some issues the last couple of weeks.
Oh yeah, that's kind of his thing. But we're shooting for the moon. All right, let me look at some stuff here. The other question, I guess, for you while I'm looking up information, is there a name that we haven't used, whether it's a Christopher Bell, a Chase Briscoe, whoever? I know you're out on Ross, but like, is there a name that we haven't clicked on that you're like, kind of wish we put him in one of the lineups? I kind of wish he's somebody that I'm thinking about having a good day, and I kind of wish there was a way to get some access to him.
Well, again, I'm going to say it again, but Chris Buescher, it's just difficult to squeeze him in with where he's starting because he's starting 12th. I have a hard time expecting him to, say, compete for a win, which I kind of want, or even a top 5 when you have Kyle Larson, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, all of those guys up front, and then Ty Gibbs, Austin Cindric, and even Carson Hocevar, for that matter, all showing tremendous speed, both long run and short run.
So if we do Elliott instead of Logano, we can get to Gilliland, Nemechek. I don't know if you feel much better about that.
I don't know. I just look at last year's race, and I think people are overreacting to him lucking into track position.
Oh, for sure. We could also do like Austin. We can do Ross Chastain, and
I don't hate that because I know he's got a shit car, but like Logano, if anybody's going to get uber aggressive on strategy, it's him. But he could also be the first car that goes a lap down and multiple laps down because of that type of stuff.
But then who's the click at 6,800? Because we already have Noah in here.
Somebody starting in the back.
No interest in Dinger?
Starting 10th?
No, he's probably gonna,
yeah,
he's not going to win the race.
What is his upside?
10th. 9th.
Yeah, exactly. Like his upside is a top 10, but not like a 4th through 6th. It's a 8th through 10th.
The other thing we could do is where does this see? Let's massage this and see what we can make happen.
Do we have any Kozlowski, by the way?
No. Is he the
All
name?
right, so he's another guy that I know I talked a lot of shit on him, but you could do Gibbs and Hocevar and just hope that the kids that was an enjoyable face with a head shake. No,
it's one or the other, not both. How about this?
Yeah, I don't hate that.
Blaney, Reddick, Hocevar, Keselowski, Logano, Herbst. I know Riley's not great, but I feel
that's
much
the lineup that cashes DFS and our 125 to 1 Carson Hocevar outright ticket. I will gladly take it.
Dude, we'll be going on vacation, I'll tell you that. Yeah, because I know Riley's not great, and I know he's starting 21st, but I'm not playing Fincham over him, Ware over him, SVG over him, Dillon over him, Jesse Love over him. And it allows us to get in both Keselowski and Logano, two guys we want to use. And we're playing Reddick Blaney. So we have, a bunch of back markers. We're kind of hoping that we can squeeze it out, but I think Reddick's close enough to the front. I think Riley being in that top 20-ish range. And then you just need Logano and Kez to steal track position, which they've done before and they could do it easily again. And I think this is, we massaged it correctly. We got to the right names, and I think this is the winner. And go with it.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Okay. Here are the three lineups: Byron Reddick, Elliott, Suarez, Gregson, John Hunter, Larson, Reddick, Blaney, Priest, Stenhouse, John Hunter, Reddick, Blaney, Logano, Keselowski, Hocevar, Herbst. I'm glad we didn't triple dip with John Hunter Nemechek. I know he has three names, but he doesn't belong in three lineups. All right, let's talk about the bet tracker and kind of where our bets sit now. We had some fun this morning. We obviously got the Hocevar on the poll. Brian did add Cindric and McDowell here, both at good numbers. They were like, third and fifth? So, I mean, they were both right there at one point. I didn't add any of my poll bets. These are sometimes stuff we add in the morning. Make sure you are following us on Twitter, by the way, because a lot of that kind of stuff gets tweeted out. And we're happy to share it through there. It's just hard when the numbers are moving around. We don't have the time to kind of track it down, and then we get a little aggressive. So Reddick at 750, Blaney at 9, Cindric at 80. Thank you, 365. Cindric to top 10 at 4-1, Dinger to top 10 at 4-1. Love those bets. As Brian mentioned, we got 125-1 on Carson Hocevar offshore. Didn't add it here, but that's how it works. So when we're not betting the 80 just because we bet it at 125. Brian does have Larson, Cindric, and Priest. He has Bowman over Barry at -115, Cindric to top 10 at 4-1. He took the Suarez group against Bowman, Busher, and Gibbs at +475. Cindric to win state. Huh?
Not looking great in the Suarez group.
Yeah, not so much. But, we'll see. It's early. It's +475. Weird stuff happens. Cindric to win stage 1 at 35. And then I think that Gibbs bet is new.
Yes. Yeah, the Gibbs bet is post call.
Yes, and I will be doing the same thing because I think if you can get that 20-1 number as it exists, you should do that because I think it's a good number. I think if you're getting 14 or 16 or whatever, I don't know, but 20, I think it's a good number. Let me refresh this just to make sure it's up to date and see if there's any other markets that have popped. Okay, we got new lines. Cool.
Yeah, and as we speak right now, I'm double checking. Caesars has already moved Gibbs 14. Perfect.
Well, I'm glad we added it when we did. Larson is basically 3.5-1 across the board. Finagle it however you want. Byron between 4 and 6. There is a 7, or at least as of the time of recording, there's a 7-1 boost on Byron, $100 max. But I think that's fun. I think that's a decent number. Reddick 750 pretty much across the board. Dennis Hamlin inside 10-1. And then everyone else is 10 or better. Brian, of the guys, Larson, Byron, Reddick, Hamlin, interested in any of them at their current prices?
I don't hate Reddick, I guess, but I don't know. I can't really get down on any of these guys because we didn't really see much to separate any of them in practice. Larson was not the best car in practice by any means. Yeah, he qualified up front, but I don't expect him to be a middling car on Sunday. The odds just tell you, like, Kyle Larson's probably going to be the best car. And if he finds clean air, as we've been saying, he's going to run away with this thing. So I don't, it's hard to get down on anybody in this single digit range. I know William Byron is really good at lucking into wins. I know he's been really good at 1.5.
He's not Alex Bowman. Let's calm down with the lucking into wins.
Yeah, but when has William Byron ever been the
William
best
Byron
car?
is one of When
Okay.
he wins, he's one of the 3 or 4 best cars. He puts himself in prime position and gives
Yes.
them a chance to win the race.
But I'm not
And
betting 6-1 on the car that's not the best car.
and how many times has the best car won this year?
That's a good point. But
I feel like the best car each and every week is usually parked before stage 3 starts.
yeah, that is very true. And what's ironic about that is that I feel like the last time William Byron had the best car was in Vegas spring of 2024 when the trash bag incident happened and it ruined his race.
See? Even when he was the best car, he still couldn't win the race. Best cars don't win.
That's
Um,
very true.
like
Um,
I said, I bet Reddick at 750. I still like Reddick at 750. I know he's not starting as far forward as I liked, and I know, um, he'll have a little bit of work to do, but he looked good enough in practice. Think he can perform really well here, and I think it's going to be a big week for that 45. And I mean, that paint scheme alone, like, how do
oh,
you
fire.
not fire on that? So
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
I was a
still,
sucker and I did personally, I got 8 offshore. Based on the paint scheme and of course, I'm a Tyler Reddick stan.
I mean, it's not a sucker move. Like, it was a good bet. I
Yeah.
still think he can very much win the race.
Yeah.
Of the guys where you can get double digits, thanks to our friends over at BetMGM, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell. Then you kind of get into the next range where it's like Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs. Like, there's still an 18 at 365. So go grab that. I mean, by the time you guys listen to this, who knows what his market looks like? But
Yeah.
Bubba is kind of that next where you start talking 20s. So I guess let's have the Gibbs conversation. Like, we both bet it. We both got 20. 18, 16, 15. What's your cutoff point? And like, we saw what we like to see. He qualified well. He was really good in practice, but we need that Saturday warrior to transition to Sunday. So how viable do you think he is? And what is your lowest number? If people are listening to this now, that you're like, okay,
Man,
I think, like, honestly, 18 might be
that's
the
funny you
bottom
say that because
zone.
that's exactly what I was thinking. Is like that's like the cutoff. It has to be near that 20 mark,
Mhm.
similar to what I talk about at the super speedways. That 20 is like that magic number, and I think with Gibbs too, being all of the narrative around the fact that he has yet to win a race, even when he's been really good. There's just something about getting over the hump and finally getting your first win that is extremely difficult. So
Yeah.
betting him in that teen range when you have guys like, yes, Ace and, even Alex Bowman, who's right around the same range, like both guys that have numerous Cup Series wins under their belts already. It's hard to back Tyrone at that price, but it's going to happen eventually. Like he's more than skilled, or he's skilled enough to have multiple wins already in his career. Just stuff hasn't fallen his way. And when you also look at kind of the wave that he's riding entering this weekend, he's on the up, not on the down like we saw to begin the season. So maybe it is his time. But yeah, I'm not playing anything lower than that 18. 15 is really pushing it. I don't think you could get down on that because I think at some point in the race, he'll go a lap down during a pit cycle and you'll probably still get 10 or 12. And you'll have confirmation that his car is really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah. And like, man, we're, it's funny because we talked about it when he was like 40 at a couple
Yeah.
tracks about he's not going to even win and his numbers are going to go short. And here we are talking like,
Yep.
can we bet him at 16? Can we bet him at 18? Can we bet him at 14? Yeah, I think 18 is kind of my limit because I'm like looking at Bubba 20. I'd much rather bet Bubba at 20 than Gibbs at 18.
I can get behind that, especially with how important pit stops are and Bubba Wallace having a top 2 or 3 pit crew this year.
And like our favorite
I don't know if
offshore,
I'm betting Bubba though, because
our
it
favorite
just based
offshore
on the
has it at
car that we
25.
saw them on Bubba 25.
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on your exposure already to who you have.
Sure. Yeah, or you can just bet 23-11 to win the race, which is a bet I also like. We'll dive into the Caesars speak easy here in a minute, but we're getting close to the hour mark, Brian. So let's run through a few more of these. As always, our newsletter will be out if you're not subscribed to that already. aoppodcast.substack.com. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com. Link is in the description. Full betting card, favorite bets, all of our favorite DFS guys. We each write up like 3 different names. We'll have links to stuff. We'll have our Grid Rival pick'em, so make sure you go check that out. Shouts to Grid Rival for having not only race day pick'ems, or pick slips or whatever they call them, but actually having ones for qualifying. Our code AOP25, $100 match deposit up to 100% match deposit up to $100. So make sure you get in there. Go check out our friends over at Win the Race. Jump in there, even if it's just for a month. Hop in the Discord, take full advantage of that. Really fun, good conversations in there, good numbers. That's where we get all of our best stuff. We push a lot of stuff through there. So if you want the best of the number, you want to get in where we get in, hop in there and you can join us in the conversations. Brian Twining. We mentioned Bubba, but we got Bowman, Logano, Barry, Briscoe, Busher, Hocevar, which is 30, 25, 18. There's what do you say? Superbook has it at 16.
16, yeah.
His number has obviously gone away. And then like 12 times that. Kyle Busch, Austin Cindric, another guy that we got some amazing CLV. That the CLV casino is just so good to us. So we'll see if we can actually.
I so wish I could withdraw from the CLV bank.
Be the best.
Yeah.
Is there anyone kind of in this like Ross to Bowman range that you're considering, that you're adding, that you're doing anything with?
So if you're looking at kind of the surprise performers of Saturday, I don't think you should be choosing Ty Gibbs or Carson Hocevar over Austin Cindric. Austin Cindric has a couple of wins already in his career. We've seen him win at a couple different types of tracks already. He's coming off of a victory last weekend in Talladega. He's got the veteran leadership of both Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano to lean on here at Texas. This is a guy who at Las Vegas was really good. He finished inside the top 10 there, pretty much running there the entire day. He's starting up near the front. He looked great in practice, and he's longer than both of those guys who have yet to win in the Cup Series. So of this group, I still think Austin Cindric presents a decent amount of value, especially if you're able to get that 30 number, because he's like Hocevar. He's shorter than 20 here in Vegas already. And that's because they probably got hammered on that 80, or he was 100 to 1 at some point here at Superbook, which had I not already had exposure at 80, I probably would have played that for a little bit as well. So I would much rather play Cindric over Gibbs or Hocevar at either number for the two kids.
I think that's an interesting conversation. I don't know. I don't know that I
think he's more seasoned than both of them in terms of the decisions that need to be made towards the end of a race to win, to put himself in position.
For sure. The 30 is fine. I think once you start talking 20s, it's hard for me to get there. I think I'd rather bet Bubba at 25. I might want to bet Bowman at 22. I might want to bet his teammate Logano at 22, but it's a lot of work to get up to the front. And then in terms of like these real long shots, I think you have to jump in on them early and hope they qualify well. And I think at this point, they're all kind of locked into appropriate prices. Okay, so as we set to finish here, Reddick 750, Blaney 9, Gibbs 20. I'm gonna search for a Bubba. If I can get 25 on Bubba somewhere on one of our supported books, I will definitely add it. Like I said, I added the 25 personally. I think that's a good number. We'll see what I do in terms of top 10s. We'll look at manufacturer pricing. Those will be in the newsletter, show aoppodcast.substack.com for that. Brian has all of his bets and then added the Gibbs at 20 as well. Fun week, fun card. I'm excited about kind of where we're trending. Obviously, we will have full thoughts there. Chris Wermy is back with his pre-race poll, so we'll link to that in the description as well. But you should be subscribed to his YouTube channel. You should be subscribed to the Win the Race YouTube channel. They do the draft every Wednesday night. Really fun conversation. They do it live. You can jump in the chat. We talk some bets. We talk some thoughts. We talk some strategy. Really good conversation there. So even if you don't want to subscribe to Win the Race on their, to get all their information, definitely check out that each and every week. 3 really smart people talking NASCAR, and like Brian and I are usually in the chat hamming it up. So make sure you get over there. Make sure you check out the pre-race poll. Smash the like and thumbs up on the way out if you've yet to do that. That's Brian Twining live from Vegas. I'm Kyle Robert. Good luck in Texas. We'll be back next week for brain stopped.
Kansas, baby.
Kansas, baby. Another mile and a half. All-Star break. Brian and I are going to take the All-Star break off. We'll be back post All-Star break with a whole batch of content through the end of the year. Xfinity's on a break for 2 weeks. Trucks, I believe, are going the next 2 weeks, but that's fine. Enjoy the race. Let's cash some tickets. Let's win some money on DraftKings, and we'll be back next week to recap it all and get you ready for Kansas. We'll talk to you next time.